5 things you must know about the Greeks before visiting Greece. In today's video, guys, I'm going to talk to you about the extremely beautiful and unique facts that revolve around Greek names. I stayed in Greece for 1 whole year doing my master's in tourism and hospitality. During that time, I got an opportunity to stay for 6 months in Athens and 6 months in Santorini. I was doing an internship in Santorini. Now, during this period, I met a lot of Greeks. I have beautiful Greek friends, and I got to learn a lot about the Greek culture. I got to learn the Greek language a little bit and some really interesting facts about them. Now, in this video, let's talk about the Greek names. The first very important thing you need to know about the Greek names. The Greek names can be said in 2 different ways. For example, when I say 2 different ways, what I mean is, if you take the name Dimitris, you can say Dimitris in 2 ways, which is Dimitris and Dimitri. Why is that? It's extremely interesting. My Greek friends put it to me in a very simple way. When do you put an S and when do you not put an S? For example, when I am talking to the person, when I'm talking to Dimitris, I would say Dimitri. It's like, hey Dimitri, how are you doing, Dimitri? Dimitri, did you do this? That is how I use the name. Now, if I'm talking about the person, that is, if I'm talking about Dimitris to Nikos, how do I do that? Hey Nico, do you know where Dimitris is? Do you get what I did? I'm talking to Nikos using the word Nico, but I'm saying, where did Dimitris go? That means the other person. So when you're talking in second person, you do not use the S, and when you're talking in third person, you use the S. I hope this was really interesting, because for me, this was really very unusual, because we normally don't do it in any cultures that I know of or countries. Another thing which is very interesting is when you go to Greece, and you don't have to worry about how to say the name, because this is extremely, this is just a formal way of how the Greek language is. For example, even if I go to Greece and I say Dimitri, Dimitris, whoever you're talking to, that guy is probably not going to feel bothered, because they know this is quite unusual and this doesn't really happen elsewhere. So it's okay if you call them Dimitri, Dimitris, you write the name anyway, and they're fine with it. They don't really have a problem, right? So you can use the names anyhow you want. Now, the second interesting thing about the names. The male names, the masculine names in Greek and the feminine names in Greek. Now, these are kind of similar. Like, all the feminine names are derived from the masculine by just changing the end. For example, in the first one, I gave the example of Dimitris. You also need to know that all the male Greek names end with an S. Most of them, I would say, 90% of them. There are of course exceptions. Same with the female names, the feminine names, they end with either an A or an I. Okay, so these are the 2 things. Just to give you a few examples, Dimitris becomes Dimitra. Then we have Nikos. Nikos is actually a short form for Nicolas. It could become anything, Niki, Nicoleta, so these kind of words. Then let's go to Yorgos becomes Yorgina. Yani becomes Yana or Yona. Agelos becomes Ageliki. So there are a few names, masculine and feminine. Now, I'm going to jump to the third point. Extremely interesting. All the Greek names have an English equivalent. Now, when I say English equivalent, why is that? And what are the English equivalents? So normally what Greeks do is, sometimes it becomes difficult for the other person to say their name. So just to make it easy, they give them their English name. For example, Yanis would say, hey, I'm Yanis, but you could call me John, right? Or Yorgos would say, hi, I'm Yorgos, but you could call me George. Nikos, you could call me Nick, right? So there are different kind of options that they give you, but of course, obviously, nobody's going to be like, hi, I'm Yanis, you can call me David. No, they have these certain, English names, and like, for example, another thing, hi, I'm Irene, you can call me Irene. I'm Christina, you can call me Christine. So there are anglicized versions of that, I would say. Now, though there are English versions of their names, I would really request you guys, it's really, really nice to call the person with their actual name that they have, especially when you're visiting their country. Not because it's nothing really to do with why take an effort, but it's you just show them that you are mixing in their culture, you want to know about them. If I had been really stuck in my mind saying, oh, I'm going to call you John, it's very, then I wouldn't know all the facts behind it, like the things that I'm telling you with the S and the dropping off of the S and the different the other things that I'm going to tell you about later. It's really interesting, guys. The closer you get to the language, the more beautiful it gets. So I would request you, whenever you go to a Greek city or Greece in general, do try to call them with their names. Another very interesting thing, guys, I told you so many names and you also saw some names on the screen. One very interesting thing is I know a lot of Greek people, and 90% of those Greek people have one of these names. I'm not even kidding. They have one of these names. There are a lot of people who have the same name, who share the same name. And mind you, this country is small. It's not as big as India. Like we are billions, they are millions, right? So it's a big difference. And even there, while you're walking down a street in a 1 kilometer stretch, you will probably have, I don't know, 50 Annises or 50 Georges. Guys, I'm not exaggerating. That's how it is. Certain names are so common that almost every person has that name. And now I'm going to tell you the fourth point. Why do so many people have the same name, right? Why do they have the same name? Why do Greeks have certain names? So here I've divided into 2 points for you. Number one, why do they have these names? Now, in Greek tradition, all the babies are named after their grandparents. The son is probably named after the grandfather, the daughter is named after the grandmother, or the son is named after either of the grandparents, but the masculine or the feminine version of the name, right? So now imagine, Greeks have big families, just like Indians, what I told you about. Now imagine the number of cousins there must be. If there are 7 cousins in a family, obviously the 7 cousins have the same pair of grandparents, right? So if there are 4 boys and 3 girls, imagine all the 4 boys being named after their grandfather. So what I'm trying to tell you is, if you're going to a family wedding or a family get-together, which they do quite often, don't be surprised to find 7 Nikoses or 7 Yorgoses on the table. It's extremely common there. I know of a few families. I know one specific family where if the 10 people sit, they are like 3 cousins. Out of them, 2 are named Stelios. I'm like, how do you figure it out? Like how do you know who is being called? So it's really interesting, guys. It's extremely interesting when you have a big table and almost everyone has the same name. It's extremely interesting. And the reason I just gave it to you, because they're named after their grandparents. Another thing, very interesting. Why do they have certain names? All the Greek names, or most of them, they are derived from the names of saints or mythical characters from the Greek mythology, right? You probably already know that by now, considering I've given you all the names. And they're named after certain saints. For example, Yorgos. Yorgos is named after Saint George. Same is with Yorgina. So George, Yorgo, and Yorgina are named after Saint George, right? So there's another quite interesting thing, the last point which I'll come to. Did you guys know that Greeks celebrate 2 birthdays? Yes. For me, it was quite interesting. Initially, when I was there, I didn't realize, like within like 2 or 3 months of time, so one of my friends was wished on both the days. Everyone's like, Kronia Pola, Kronia Pola. So Kronia Pola is basically, they use it for happy birthday, or actually on any occasion, they say Kronia Pola to wish the other person, right? So I'm like, dude, wasn't your birthday like 2 months back? Like, what just happened? And that's when I got to know this, and it is extremely interesting, guys. You need to know this. So what happens is, like I said, all the people in Greece, all the Greeks are named after certain saints. Most of them, majority of them. And interestingly, the Greek calendar, every day of the Greek calendar is dedicated to a saint. Isn't that insane? This, I was like, wow. So every day of the Greek calendar is dedicated to a saint or any mythical character which has some kind of importance, right? So based on that, what happens is, say for example, just to give you a more clear idea, if St. George's Day is happening, all the Georges and the Georginas in the country, or let's say Yorgos and Yorginas in the country, celebrate. They celebrate. They consider it as their birthday, but they call it the name day. It is called as the name day. So that's how the birthdays are celebrated, guys. So you will see lakhs of people celebrating on one day. And when I say celebrate, they really do. They bring together families, they share sweets, they cut cakes, there are gift exchanges. So basically, it is a proper birthday, right? And obviously, the second birthday is their normal birthday, the day they're born. But guys, the name day, what I have learned so far, the name day has priority. It is more important than their actual birthday. So guys, if you have a Greek friend, make sure you wish them on both the days. I really hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. Before going, guys, if you think any of these points are also valid to some other countries or cultures, please make sure you put it in the comments. I would love to know. And please subscribe to my channel so that I can keep sharing with you different things about different cultures of the countries that I have visited. Maybe in the next video, I'm thinking of sharing some Greek language tips with you, and it's going to be really interesting. I love the Greek language, and I'm sure you will too. So see you soon, guys. Thank you for watching.